Okay, all right. This is Main Prince. We're here for the NFLPA bar exam prep course. This is week 2. It is May 22nd, 2024. We're going to dive right into it. So let me pop up the uh, presentation for today. And again, this is real intimate. If you guys have questions while we're doing this, please feel free to let me know. You guys, we can just talk freely, and we will try to answer as many things as we can today. Hopefully, we'll try to get everything done within the 2 hours. Last week was a little bit of a lot, so I know that was a lot for last week, so I'll try to break a lot of it down today. Again, whatever questions you may have, raise your hand, push the little button to raise your hand. Other than that, then I will go through some quiz questions later on. Some of the ones that were more frequent, if we get a chance to, and some of the a little bit more difficult. Again, all these questions, all these presentations, this is all highlights and key elements for you to pass the exam. Definitely, you should be taking notes and whatnot for yourself, because it's easier for you to recall your own information, as well as you'll have the slides afterwards. You'll have the questions and answers afterwards. And I'm also going to send you guys some things to know. Were you guys able to download the articles, Cliff Notes that I submitted? Did you guys get that yet?
No, I didn't see it yet.
Yeah, in the folder or with the slideshow recording, there is some Cliff Notes on there, and I'll add it again to the discussion stream so you have it. But so it tells you, as a snapshot. And again, these are things that you want to, if you want. You may want to print out so that you have them in your binder, or however you're keeping your notes together, so that you can quickly refer to it. And basically, what it does, it has a term sheet, has a term on there, the CBA article, and then what page it's on. Obviously, like last week with Johnny, we all know what page is Article 26 on.
171.
171.
So anytime you need to refer to that, which you will do quite frequently throughout the exam, you'll know right where to go on page 171. The little cheat sheet that I gave you guys for that as well, you'll want to use that for your own notes during your preview preview or review when you are getting ready for the exam, and as you go through all your studying. The easiest way I learned from me was, as I learned and remembered stuff, okay, I know accrued seasons. Okay, that's what for rookies with less than four accrued seasons. I know where that is in the CBA if I need to recall it, right? So I know I'll look at it on that cheat sheet. It'll tell you Article 8, Section 1, A, and B. But you may not need to refer to that, because accrued, it has to do with games. So that'll be 6 games throughout the season for them to get an accrued season. Accredited season means 3 games, and that's for salary and benefits. Okay, salary and benefits. So definitely keep all this stuff in mind. All right. Now, as we're going through this today, the off-season workouts. Okay, off-season workouts. Today is a little bit different than from last week. We're including the articles and where they are. So again, as you make it on your notes, all this stuff is from the reading. I can't say this more than enough, but you guys, you have to do the reading. You have to do the reading. Like the whole point of the readings is so that you can recall the information when it's time to take A, these quizzes that I give you, and B, for the exam. You're going to definitely want to recall a lot of that information. Okay, what I'm going to give you in presentation wise, these are snapshots and key elements that are on the exam, because as you know, that again, that CBA is huge and it's tiny print. There's lots of information on there. Even though it's open book, you're not going to be able to flip back and forth on it. Okay, so It says the video is private. I'm not sure. Hold on a quick second. I guess some people have some we have some technical difficulties with the people getting on, but we'll see if I can remedy that real quickly here. Okay, let's see if I can. And you guys can see and hear me okay, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. And I know Johnny's got to get going here, but I want to make sure I keep everybody on that needs to be on. Let's see, details. Where are we? Here we go. Bada boom, bada bing, and hopefully that works. Okay. All right. So the first part of this, off-season workouts, they are not required only if there are OTAs, which is organized team activities. All this type of information, again, for you guys to recall for the exam, but also for you and for your clients when you're talking to your clients, if they have to go, only for certain OTAs. Okay. Typically, again, mainly for rookies and for those getting workout bonuses, how the OTAs works is there are 4 workouts per day. Okay. And that's 8 weeks or 9 weeks, depending on if they have a new head coach. If they have new head coaches, they get a little bit more time. So it's like a week more time. But typically, between off-season workouts and for the mini camps, they're approximately 4 times per day. But they only get paid for that one, whichever case that is. They get paid per day. Okay, for 2024, for the off-season workout is $295 per day. Okay. And again, $94.40 excluding minicamp. Okay. And minicamp is obviously like the rookie minicamp. The 3 guarantees thing we talked about again last week, that's SIC, which is skill, injury, and salary cap. Again, the more you hear some of these terms and terminologies where you're looking at your definitions, a lot of this stuff should be hopefully a simple recall for you as you're reading through questions, which we're going to try to get into questions later on today too. Okay. The rookie development program. Now, even though it's a rookie development program, these guys can attend them in their first year as well. Okay. Especially for some rookies, they may get injured. After they've been through the rookie program, they may get injured. So a lot of guys try to forget things. So they do give them an opportunity to attend twice in their career. They don't have to be back to back, but most guys do it back to back. If they go in their first year, they may go in their second year. Most guys may not go on their second contract or the veteran contract. They may not attend, but again, it's up to them, and it's for you to know on the exam if there is a question on how many times can a rookie go into the rookie development program or the rookie premier program. Which is usually a few days, and it's twice in their career, so they can do it later on as well. Okay, the rookie program, things to keep in mind: it's 5 days, 7 weeks, it's 8 hours, but it's 3.5 hours of on-field work. So sometimes that 3.5 hours is broken up twice throughout that day. So they may go in the morning time for install, and then they may go later on in that same day for some repetitions and stuff. For 2024, again, depending on what's going to happen, again, you'll see it in your Article 22, Section 8. But depending on when that occurs for the exam, it may ask you about 2025. It may ask you about 2027. But if you know where to go in Article 22, Section 8, it'll tell you what those years are for each one, because the years change. Remember, because the CBA expires in 2030, so it's 3 in the last 4 years is what they may be looking at. Okay, rookies include quarterbacks, obviously those that have 0 credited seasons. So again, remember, if you see those things, a credited season, if somebody gets injured And the question is in retaining somebody. Quarterback was injured in year one. After his second game, will he be able to attend the actual rookie development program? And the answer will be yes, because he has 0 credited seasons, because he'll be on IR for the rest of the whole season. The bonus is $315 per day. Can get this off of here. Yeah, the bonus is $315 per day, or $11,025. And again, you'll see that. Again, that's going to be on Article 21, Section 3. Okay. The preseason training camps, again, this is all in the beginning of things, in the beginning of that season, but preseason training camps, Article 23, Section 5. Okay, reporting is 47 to 48 days before their first game. Again, it depends on when their game is, if you're playing in a Hall of Fame game, for one, and of course, those teams that have new head coaches. Okay, the per diem for rookies is $1,850. Veterans is $3,200. Again, that is for the end. This is for the end of this year. So that was from 23 and 24. 25 and 26, it's going to change, and same for and so on. So you got to make sure you're looking at the questions that talk about dates. Okay. Anytime you see anything with dates and years, make sure you're aware of that. Make a note of it to yourself, a note in your piece of your scrap paper, so you know what dates you're looking at. Don't just guess on those dates. They're going to be really specific. But again, knowing where those articles are, that'll definitely help you. Only 3 preseason games permitted during training camp. This has changed. If some of you have been paying attention, I'm not sure if you guys are getting NFL communications. I have no idea a lot about what's much in the press, what they're releasing, but it may come out sometime this week that the owners now have talked about going 18 games. So if that is an occurrence that does happen, if we go into 18 games, they may increase the 3 preseasons to 4 preseason games. So, but for the exam, since it has not been approved yet for the 18 games, for the exams, just know that there are 3 preseason games, okay, in training camp. Okay, any violations that guys go through, hopefully there are none, but if there are any, this is always something that comes up on the exam. Especially when they want to make sure you're understanding penalties. Okay, so violations, penalties, grievances. Definitely make sure you make stars in your CBA or in your notes regarding violations. Violations during preseason training camp specifically need to be addressed within 48 hours and 72 hours. Okay, if it goes beyond that, then it's not going to be looked at. Okay, so definitely if it's one of your clients, and again, you're thinking about it now, hopefully it never happens, but you definitely want to, in preseason training camp, get that addressed like really right away, immediately. Because if there is an issue, and there's always certain issues, now that you guys are studying this stuff, when preseason comes up here in July, it's going to be in between when you start preparing for the exam on the 29th. You'll probably hear it more, and then you'll know and recognize it and say, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, obviously they got to get that handled within the next 48, 72 hours. So postseason pay, Article 37. Again, so how postseason works, and this is, again, for those that, end up making it into the playoffs in the wild card, division, conference, and Super Bowl. Okay, this is what this is regarding. Again, this is Article 37. Players will receive 1/2 of their compensation. Okay, so for postseason play, they're going to get 1/2 of their compensation. Remember, there's 36 weeks, 36 pay periods on an 18-week basis of the season, even though they only play 17 games. Okay, players are typically, during postseason, players are paid within 15 days after the game. Typically, now I know they say 15 days. There's never, ever in the history of the NFL been an issue of pay, even including the strike years. But most likely, when guys play on between Saturdays and Sundays, they'll typically get their pay on Tuesday, okay, by 4 p.m. If your client, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, If your client is terminated at 3:59 p.m. on Tuesday, they are not getting paid for, say, for the future weeks. But that happens a lot too. Everything they just got to file a grievance. There could be a reason why there is reasons why some guys don't get paid, especially if they've gotten an extreme penalty. That needs to be paid. As you've been looking at the club discipline, you see that there are a lot of penalties, and guys sometimes don't want to pay those right away because they want to file a grievance. And then there's that little period of time between when they file that grievance and still when they have to pay on that grievance. So typically they do have to pay whatever that penalty fine is on a grievance, and then they just get reimbursed back if that does come up. As far as postseason pay, again, for the Pro Bowl, I know we went to this. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. They tried this whole flag football. If you guys watched this past year, they tried this whole flag football format. I mean, it is what it is. It does still count as part of their Pro Bowl pay, right? So for those teams that win, it's $92,000. For those that lose, it's $44,000. Okay, that's just for the postseason pay. And again, if you guys have questions, definitely let me know about this. And part of the 4 tiers, so that 4-tier playoff system, that's what I was talking about. Hope I didn't get too fast past that. But the wild card, division, conference, and Super Bowl, those are part of the playoff system for payments. Credited season. Okay, again, we talked about this. This should be pretty self-explanatory, but it's in Article 59, Section 2. 1 credited season, has 3 games, full pay status for a total of 3 or more regular season games, not the postseason. So if a guy has been on IR for most of the season and he's been designated for return, which you've studied that this past weekend, if he comes back in week 17, and he plays in 17 and 18 games, 17 and 18, and he plays in the wild card or the first playoff game, that is not a credited season. Okay, credited season only is for regular season games. Remember, if you're not on the commissioner's exempt permission list, they won't get a credit season for that. The reserve PUP list is the physically unable to perform list as a result of a non-football injury. You're not getting credited season for that. Club of practice and or developmental squad, which is basically the practice squad. You're not getting a credited season for that. Okay, or if you're on the club's injured reserve list, which we kind of spoke about a little bit earlier too. So that is some of the main focuses on credited season. Now, the reason that we're giving you this slide again, because it is definitely one of the key elements that you're going to have to recall and know in regards to what a credited season means in a question that you're going to get. Questions could be 50 words. It could be 100 words. And again, we talked about a little bit last week about that fluff and stuff. There could be a lot of fluff in there, but make sure you pay attention to these elements of what a credited season or a not accredited season is, okay? Because that's going to be critical for you. This weekend we learned about the severance pay, okay? Because Article 59, Section 3. The big thing about severance pay, again, is they're trying to get rid of a player and say, listen, this is what we want to offer you. Guys don't have to accept it. Again, it's usually a single lump sum payment by NFL club, and it's based on his last earned credited season. Okay, so you see, talking about these notes here. Again, this is your last earned credited season. Payments are made automatically on the last day of the calendar quarter. Okay, so depending on when this severance is, not so many times it's done during the season, but obviously here in the off season, you know that the quarters are broken up in 3. So it's January, February, March, end of March. And then you got April, May, June. And then you go July, August, September. And then the last 4th quarter, October, November, December. Okay. But if there is severance pay, remember it's a calendar quarter. Okay. Now, unless the separation occurs within 20 days of such date. So whenever that is. Okay. So as they look at it on the exam, you'll be able to calculate. So today is the 22nd. This is part of the second quarter. Let's say this was March 22nd. Okay, if this was March 22nd, okay, then it's going to be within 20 days of when he should be paid. So he'll be that your client will get paid earlier than it will be that 20 days. Okay, so it'll be earlier within that 20 days if it happens that he's released or they want to offer him a severance pay. Severance pay will be paid on the last day. The severance will be paid on the last day of the next following calendar quarter. So if they don't get their pay on the say March, say this was the part of the first quarter. Say if they don't get their pay at the end of March, then they won't again get that pay until June. Okay, which will be into that next following quarter. Again, it's very rarely that happens, but it can happen. Guys have to do some extreme something to be able to get on that. So, but again, the only thing that they're going to talk about on the exam mainly is they're going to give you some calculations. They're going to give you some calculations, and then they'll ask you, what would his severance pay be? And it'll be a calculation of a single lump sum payment. That's typically what that question will be. Second career savings plan. Now we're getting, again, as you know, this has to do with benefits. Okay, so if anything has to do with benefits, that has to do with credited seasons. Okay, this is Article 54, Section 2. Okay, so 2 credited seasons for the second career savings plan. Okay, so 2 credited seasons means, as Tony, how many games will he have had played total? Remember, you asked me about the total games, but how many games minimum will he have had to be played?
For benefits, it'd be 6 minimum.
Right. Okay, it'll be 6 minimum as far as the games and 2 credited seasons. So again, keep in mind, if you see it's just about games, make sure you're paying attention when he's on active, inactive list, when he's injured, and make sure it's not all just in one season. Because that type of question, again, just to throw you off, does come up a bit too. So keep in mind, 2 credited seasons means 2 different seasons. So 24 and 25 would count as 2 different seasons as long as the player has gotten 3 games out of both of those seasons on the active, inactive list. Okay, so it's $2 for each dollar contributed by player. 2023, 24, it's going to be the maximum matching was $32,000. December of each year, of each plan year, is when that starts. Okay, and the last day of that plan year, March 31st, is at the following calendar year. And you guys remember, Johnny, you remember when the league year starts? I guess it would be now 2025.
March, is it March 13th?
Yes, March 13th. So it'll end on the 12th and starts on the 13th. Okay, so again, some dates and stuff. I know there are a lot of different key dates, but those are some things that you definitely want to keep in mind as you get through some of these questions on the exam and some of the quiz questions. I'll put some in there too, but just so you're familiar. And you guys, keep in mind that when you get the quiz question, everything you get is fair game for the exam. Okay, everything is fair game. So the slides, the quiz questions and answers, you can print out all of this stuff. Are you going to be able to use it and flip through it? Maybe not. But you may depend on how quickly you answer some of the ones you automatically know. Okay, so it's totally up to you. But if you want to print this stuff out, again, putting it in a binder, whether you do it with a spiral binding or whether you put it in a 3-hole binder, it's totally up to you. But you want to keep your stuff throughout your studies and make sure you make notes of the league year, the end of the league year, the beginning of the next league year, And there is a question on when is the ending. I think it's just the year. When is the ending of the current CBA, which you guys should know is 2030. Now, player annuity program. Player annuity program, Article 55, Section 2. Let me jump on. Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead with your question.
Quick question on the new league year.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, so is there like a determining factor on what date it falls on every year, or are we just saying every year is it every year the last day of the league year is the 12th and the new day of the league year is the 13th?
No, not at all. So basically, again, it's just how a regular Gregorian calendar works, but it's usually the second Wednesday of the year of the second Wednesday of the third month, right? So every March, that second Wednesday, whatever that day is, that's going to be the ending, and then that following Thursday is going to be the beginning. You see what I'm saying?
The following Thursday, meaning the next day.
Yeah, the next day, right. So,
yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, again, 2027, I mean, again, the dates are going to fluctuate, you know what I'm saying? But again, after this year, or after, I mean, you guys are going to pass this test anyway. They're going to tell you when that league year is, okay? Now, again, we have up until 2030 as of right now with this current CBA. There's no telling what's going to happen as far as negotiations and announcements for the new CBA beginning in 2031. But yeah, they're gonna tell you. So if they decide that they want to make the league year 20, I would say March 19th, they could make it March 19th, and there could be some reasoning in that. I'm not sure if you guys already know. We do have a possible new expansion team coming. So if that expansion team comes in 2030 for the 2031 CBA, they may move things a week back just to give them some time to get acclimated to, getting their operations together or something like that. Again, we don't know as of right now. It's just some rumblings and grumblings amongst the owners and the daggone financial advisors and agents in regards to an expansion team. But as far as a date wise, for your knowledge, they'll tell you when specifically it's coming. Yes. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Johnny? Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. I had no idea that it was the second Wednesday of the third month. Maybe I just didn't pay attention.
Yeah. Okay, so the other part of the player annuity program, again, it's ending in 2031. Again, that's going to be the year after we end the current CBA. It's just going to it'll most definitely, it's just going to get renegotiated. But to get in the player annuity program, it's 2 or more credited seasons as of the end of the annuity year. Okay, again, we're talking about credited seasons. Something keep in mind, between if you want to make highlighted notes as far as what benefits when they occur, some are 2 or more and some are 3 or more. So you just got to be careful of making sure that you are understanding in your notes when and what credited seasons go with what benefit. Okay, because obviously the trust, which we're going to talk about a little bit today as well, it has a lot of variables that come into play. Okay, so eligible player who earns a credited season for 2 or more credited seasons. Talk about that. The amount of allocation will be first allocated to the qualified portion, and again, depending on how much guys put into it, and again on the exam, it's going to come down to. They'll tell you in the question or the description what is the part that they want you to calculate. Okay, and then of course looking back at your CBA on Article 55, Section 2, it'll tell you what those dollar amounts are, as you'll be able to calculate, how much a guy should be getting. Okay. For benefits, again, anything with benefits, we know that has to do with credited seasons. Okay, Article 12. Okay, let me back up. And Tony, go ahead with your question, man.
So for the benefits for this annuity, if they don't have the 2 credited seasons, they don't qualify, correct?
Absolutely not. They do not. They do not qualify.
So that'd be like the right way of thinking about it to get rid of the fluff.
Yeah, like a practice squad player. If he was on a practice squad the whole season, he's definitely in. And if he's on practice squad the whole season for year 1, and then in year 2, he only plays in 2 games. He's definitely not still going to qualify in that same year. You dig what I'm saying? So he'll have to wait until he gets 2 credited season, which means he's played in 3 or more games in that 1 year.
Perfect.
Okay. Did I answer your question there, Tony?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So player benefit cost is paid by the NFL and all NFL teams. It's paid on an accrual basis for a league year. It's for present and former players. The injury protection is for workers' compensation, as well as moving expenses. Yeah, I see it. It's moving expenses, and then of course the tuition assistance plan, long-term care, travel and lodging. Those are things that guys will get benefits for. Okay, there's no contribution to the legacy benefit after, well, obviously right now because it's after the 22 league year, so we already know that. The retirement plan. I mean, I can't say it enough that again, I'm only giving you a lot of highlights. So, but again, saying specifically, this is definitely going to be more than one question on the test. So I'll just say it that way. Article 53, the player retirement plan. There's more than one question on there about the Burt Bell, Pete Rozelle, NFL player retirement plan. There's more than one question. So as you read that article, make sure you take some notes in there for yourself. And again, just remember where you might find these things. I know Article 26, page 171 is one thing, but for sure, some things like this, the Burt Bell, Pete Rozelle, you get a question about that, that's going to be Article 53. Okay. Yeah, Tony, go ahead.
So for the Burt Bell, Pete Rozelle, if they have 7 seasons of playing negotiation, the players can actually qualify to become an agent.
Qualified to become an agent. I mean, it's not an automatic thing. If that's what you're asking. 7 seasons. So like, who just retired? Devontae Parker that just retired. He's played now 8 seasons, right? From the Philadelphia Eagles. He's played 8 seasons. So he's still gonna have to take the NFLPA exam. So it's not like it's not an automatic thing. You understand?
But the education doesn't count then.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
So,
sir.
and again, where you would find this is that part of it is on 299. Yeah, it's on 299 as I'm looking at it on here. I know, like, some people see, I'm not sure what your CBAs have, but some CBAs have 298 and 299. But you'll see it right on that page there. But it's Article 53, sections 1, 2, and 3, actually. So the player retirement plan, contributions are made annually by each club. Player, now see, this is what I was talking about earlier. Player needs 3 or more credited seasons. Okay, so this for the player retirement plan, he's got to have 3 or more credited seasons. Okay, the death benefit for the player retirement plan increased now from 48 to 60 months for that benefit amount, which, again, as far as the test wise, there was not a death benefit question on there, but there was a couple different ones about the Pete Rozelle NFL player retirement plan. But so I don't have to worry so much about the death benefit. But again, know where that is. If it's talking about death benefit, obviously for spouses and stuff, in your notes and whatnot. Again, when you have this, as I'm saying it to you out loud, you'll know that Article 53 has to deal with the player retirement plan. The death benefit is now 60 months, and then they'll give you the numbers on what that is calculated based on that. Okay, the disability benefit, Article 60. Again, this is for former NFL players with a disability or a neurocognitive development. So this is for those guys, especially those guys who now have CTE. Again, getting tested, it got to get tested immediately. Plus, again, this is just more so just giving you some heads up for your clients. If your clients are in, again, this is after they're finished playing. If your clients are in this, they all have the benefits.nfl.com or .app, right? There's an app for benefits that all players have. Okay. If they want to register for this, again, it's up to you as their agent to talk to them about it. But for sure, if they have a neurocognitive or they have some concussion questions, or if their spouses or family or friends are noticing different symptoms, that would be the time you want to make sure that they get some help and get some attention. Okay. And the sooner they get attention and get help, they can get that schedule, and then these things can, again, it's going to get covered anyway, right? So benefit category, again, this is for active, inactive A, and or inactive B. The minimum amount since 21 is $48,000 annually. Okay, that's if they are getting the disability benefit. All medical records are needed at the time of the application. Like I said, as soon as something happens, they definitely need to apply for it, but they definitely want to start getting help with just scheduling their first initial appointment. Social Security Administration, that determination, again, shall be reevaluated. Again, that's just stuff to keep in mind. The neurocognitive minimum benefit increase is actually went down from 55 to 3,500. Okay, so that's now a minimum. Right, so it used to be they had to get to a certain threshold, but now they reduced that minimum to be 3,500. And then, of course, the $10,000 reimbursement for out-of-pocket expenses, and that's dependent on if guys have to travel, right? So if you live in LA and you need to travel to like Cleveland, Ohio, or New York City. If you're paying those out-of-pocket expenses, they'll get reimbursed for those type of things. So it's a $10,000 reimbursement. Okay, if you see that type of question on there. Medical, dental, life, and health insurance, life insurance. Again, this is Article 58. Again, all this stuff goes back to credited seasons, right? So the life insurance is from 0 to 1 credited season, which is up to $1 million. Again, 6 or more credited season is a $2 million policy. Again, the medical requirement for the annual deductible is $850 per individual or $1,700 per family. Okay, the max that they would pay is $2,000. Okay, so the maximum. So you may get a question about the maximum, not so much as far as about the individual, but the maximum amount of out-of-pocket expenses for medical, dental, life insurance is $2,000. Okay, dental and UCR, which is usual, customary, and reasonable. That also is included in that. Preventative care pay is 100%. General services 85%, and major services is 50%. Now, preventative care, that could be again, the CTE is one thing, but also pertains to those guys that have diabetes. If they want to get preventative care, not just preventative care, if they're going to rehab, or they're getting a personal trainer, depending on how it gets written up. Okay, that's just so you guys know. That part won't be on the test, but you'll need to know that preventative care pay is 100% that are usual, customary, and reasonable. Okay. Termination pay. Oh my gosh, this is on there on the exam several different times, so definitely be aware of that. Okay, termination pay. Now, again, we're talking about credited seasons. Hold on. Go ahead, Tony. Your question.
Sorry about that, and apologize for the ignorance. Just want to clarify. So for the medical, dental, and life, if they have, like, if they're drafted, because I'm confused on the 0 to 1 credited seasons. If they're drafted, they have that insurance for life.
Yes. So zero again. Zero is obvious for those rookies, right? And
Okay, it's 0 for the rookie. That makes complete sense. Sorry about that.
yeah. Okay. So remember, if you remember, go on page 171 of Article 26. It starts at 0, and that's for rookies. And then again, when you get to that point of negotiating for your client, you won't go in a straight line down. So your clients will be 2025, right? So in 2025, you don't go in a straight line down as far as what their minimum salaries will be. You go in a diagonal, okay? Because the next year they're going to have one season, but then again that's going to be the next year, and then so on and so on. So from 0 to 1 is what they count as a rookie the first year, okay, as long as they make it there, okay. That's for the life insurance for a credited season. Now remember, if you're on the practice squad, okay, even if you're on the practice squad, okay, you're going to get life insurance, okay, for that year, okay, because again, practice squad player is going to be 0, but that credited season is going to be for those guys again that are just now rookies, okay. So it really the benefit amount is for those that, I mean, I know we've just had some recent guys retire after 7, 8 years, but some guys may decide to retire after 2 or 3 years. So if a guy decides to retire after 2 years and he has one credited season, well then he'll get $1 million life insurance policy if something does happen. If he has 2 credited seasons, he'll still get $1 million life insurance if something happens during that time that he decides to retire, because he'll have 0 to 1 credited season. Okay. And hopefully we don't have anybody that does have a terminal illness and or like the recent guy that the guy that just got charged. Somebody was just shot recently. He was okay, but his brother passed away. But if a player gets shot and whatnot, again, depending on when their credited season is, that's determining their $1 million or $2 million life insurance policy. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so and again, the end of this termination pay, it's only allowed once in their NFL career. No, just because if you retire or you get fired and you decide to come back, some guys do that after a couple of years, but they don't get termination pay again. Okay, so it must be filed by the end of the regular season, which is again in December. From December until February 1st is when that stuff has to be filed. Not for players. Now, if your player is suspended for 4 or more games due to conduct, then they don't get termination pay. Okay. And again, this goes down to club discipline and Article 42 as far as talking about for the penalties. Roughing the passer, unsportsmanlike conduct, getting kicked out of a game. Guys get kicked out of the game. Again, even if he's played, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, if he's getting kicked out of the game half of that time, once every other year, at 4 games, he is not going to get termination pay. Okay, so just keep that in mind for you guys. Tony, go ahead.
Is that termination pay, or is that a grievance or a non-grievance with Colin Kaepernick?
No. So no. The short answer is no. Okay, that wasn't about a termination pay. His grievance was about not have. It was basically collusion. That's a different type of grievance. His grievance had to do with collusion, and not being picked up does not mean you're terminated. Terminated means you have a contract, and they say, you know what, we're gonna cut you right now because you're not up to standards for where you should be as an NFL player. Okay, that's getting cut, and you're under contract. if at the end of if they release you and teams are saying that you're not good enough, well, that's a whole nother story. But to say that you're not good enough, it's not about termination. Not good enough just means you're not up to par. However, if you can prove that you are good enough and teams are against you, that was a Colin Kaepernick thing, and that's why he sued for collusion. That was a non-football grievance, and that's how he won that grievance. And then of course he made the slight attempt last year, the year before, to come back, but again, it just wasn't happening. Teams weren't interested in it. That answer your question there about that termination pay, and now knowing the difference between that and collusion?
100%.
Okay, cool. Okay, so Article 56, this is the tuition assistance plan. This is definitely beneficial as you do your prospecting and recruiting for your players. As you're talking to them, again, this will definitely help you with some memory recall. This does come up in the exam. It's only one question, but it depends on what their terminology is going to be for it. But keeping this in mind for your players when you're prospecting and recruiting, asking them, did they get their degree? Right now, because of the pandemic, and guys have been playing now for like 6, 7, 8 years, and not like the boy McCormick from University of Miami that got a 9th year approval. But most guys have gotten their undergrad degree, okay? But maybe if we get back to, I hate to say this is normal for guys to not get their degree, but we get back to normalcy of guys that are coming out early in their junior season after only playing 3 years. If we get to that point, this is what you want to make sure you let your guys know, that there is a tuition assistance plan. But again, they got to have had at least one credited season before the semester starts. One of the guys that took big advantage of this, and I'm not sure what you guys know about the history of the league, but Steve Young got his law degree paid for by the NFL while he was playing, and this is what he took advantage of. He took advantage of it immediately then when he was able to, and to become a lawyer. But again, it must be in qualifying status for the regular season and or postseason. If you're on the practice squad, okay, and again, this is for the tuition assistance plan, and it does, even though there's, for benefits, it does pertain to them for having to be able to be part of this. If they're on the practice squad for 3 games in the season, they will get a $5,000 tuition available for that season. Okay, it's not the maximum, but it is a little bit of something. Okay, so again, it depends on where guys go to school, how much their tuitions are, etc. Retired players. Oh, go ahead. Let me see. Back up. Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
So for that tuition, if these kids have a full ride, especially like with the NIL, does that tuition get backdated or prorated on top of what they already had, or how does that work?
No, not at all. Yeah, so typically, again, once you declare for the NFL draft, once you sign with an agent, you are automatically now ineligible for college, for even return back to college. If you don't sign a contract with an agent, then there is a possibility that you could go back to college, okay? But once you are eligible for the draft, once you decide you sign with an agent, the university has now cut all ties with you, okay? NIL stuff, if you have let's say the ones we just did recently, if you have a 4-year NIL deal with somebody and you only play 3 seasons of that NIL and you decide that you want to declare for NFL draft, well, you're going to have that, again, just like a regular contract, you're going to have to forfeit that money from that last year, even if they give it to you all up front. So if you have any guys that you are representing doing NIL, make sure, just like the commission on your new clients, put that money aside somewhere, because if these guys decide to renege or they decide to go back on their deals, then they got to pay that money back. Now, fast forwarding to the league, if you're in the league, then that's what will, again, depending on where you are. If you're an active player, then you'll get a certain amount of tuition reimbursement. If you're just on a practice squad, again, you won't know that until September 1st. If you're on a practice squad, then you'll just get $5,000. Okay, so the amount has nothing to do with the universities. It's only the NFL players and what the NFL now, NFLPA has with their tuition reimbursement. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. So if, for example, a guy's on the practice squad, he's done the 3 games in the season, he gets the $5K tuition available for that season. Say he's gone to school for 3 years, he's trying to get his bachelor's, and he's got 10 credits left, and it's $3,500. That $5K tuition would cover that. He's basically new money, new school.
Yeah. Depending on how much the tuition is, but yeah, that's the maximum their guys going to get. That's for practice squad guys. And
Yeah, I was like recruitment. So if I'm talking to a mom or dad and they're like, my kid's got 1 more year, I can use that as an actual advantage, saying actually the NFL will pay for his school, so you guys aren't short on it.
Okay, so recruitment wise, I don't know how you say philosophy wise. I would not use. I would say that as an option. Again, this is depending on where your guy is in Bledsoe.
Make the information available to them. Don't promise them. Just say it's available, that it could do that.
Yes. Because unfortunately, again, wherever your guy is listed on the Bledsoe and the National Scouting Service and the Mel Kuypers draft report, depending on where they're preliminary looking at being drafted. If your guy's first or third round, you could use that as a talking point. If the guy's in the 7th round or a free agent, I would not use that, because they're going to use that in terms of, oh, well, he came out, he thought he was going to get reimbursement because you said that even if he's on the practice squad, because at that ranking, you may not A, get drafted, B, get in a rookie minicamp, C, you may not even make the team when they cut down the 53-man roster to make the practice squad. You dig what I'm saying? So depending on where your guy would be ranked is how I would hold off and determine what talking point to use for that tuition assistance plan for a rookie. If you get a guy that's a veteran, and this happens too, guys that want to switch agents or they want to find somebody they're more comfortable with, they have more communication with. If that happens, then of course, you having your conversations with them. Hey, where'd you get your degree from? And they'll be like, well, I didn't really get my degree. I finished up at Miami, but I transferred to Tennessee and I was a few credits short. And then, especially those guys that have kids. Guys that have kids more so want to go back and get their degree. And then, of course, there's sometimes the guys that have made that external promise to their mom or something. They'll want to go back and get their degree. But for the most part, some guys, they may not think it's necessary. So it'll be up to you you should persuade them to get their degree. And then this will be how you would help them understand, hey, it's going to be paid for. And of course, they can do online. Nowadays, they can do online as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it. And then the only other question I had, sorry, Johnny, is the retired player. So if a guy retires, he can get up to 85 per year for the 5+ credited. So, for example, he can get what was it, 85, 85, 85 per year?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And again, that same thing, expenses must be incurred within 72 months of the first day of the planned year. Okay, following the last, regular season or postseason game, and that's going to be just a calculation. But on the exam, you're going to need to know, or you're going to need to recall and know, is that it's 2 credited seasons and it's up to 85,000. So when they look at the cost wise, it's going to be based on in the fact patterns in the question may give you a whole bunch of numbers of this is how much it costs per year to go to this university, XYZ. What's the maximum that this guy will be able to get? And you'll need to know it's 85,000. Okay.
But per year.
Per year, yes.
Okay.
And again, this is based on, for some of those guys that, sometimes even these guys they're listed as 3, 4, 5-star recruits, and they play. They may decide to have a gap year, right? Or so them guys may end up going to, like, one of my good friends, Billy Miller, is the head coach at IMG. They may decide to go to IMG to bulk up, especially some of these offensive linemen, defensive linemen. They may figure out they need to gain some more weight before they want to jump into college football. Well, they may wait a year or two and then decide that they want to go to a university and start playing. And if they do that, then obviously that's going to push back their start date when they're going to be rookies. However, they can only play 1 year of college then. But then again, it depends on how good they are, and that's going to determine, where their pathways lie as far as when they want to start as an NFL player. If they start as an NFL player playing only 1 season of college, and they go into the NFL, clearly they're definitely going to need 3 years at least to pay for college. So that's why, and that's where that $85,000. Well, how would it be that much? That's why it would be $85,000 per year. That makes sense to you, Tom and Johnny?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Main, before I take off, I wanted to ask you, are you going to be on speaking about the that one new benefit for hold on, let me pull it up.
Okay.
It is called the medical and wellness and it's unlock your benefits, the trust program.
You're talking about the trust? Yes. Let me see if
and the question on the exam that was presented last year was in regards to, I have the brochure. I'm not sure if you have the brochure. I can send it over to you.
I do have it.
Yeah.
Johnny, you took it last year?
Yeah. The medical and wellness, and there was a portion where there was a question on the brain and body assessment, and the question was former players can take advantage of this comprehensive health assessment administered by a brain and body partner, and the answer was once every 5 years from the first date in which the brain and body health assessment was administered.
Right. Yep. That's on the medical and wellness. So
correct.
So today, as far as we're talking about here, again, creating a game plan. And did you guys get the new source document of the trust? Because I don't know if we got that yet.
I didn't get it yet. No, nothing new.
I know.
Yeah. So I don't know if that means that they're not going to have that question on there, or if they're going to send that to you later on. Okay.
I asked Levin and them for the source notes, and they said that everything's going to be pretty much the same as last year's exam, except for the performance enhancing and the public substance abuse.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. So I guess what I'll do is, because you have yours, I'll put it in there for everyone, obviously, to be able to pull from it. But so Tony, I will add the trust in the materials for week 2, as far as so you can look at the trust stuff. But there's no page numbers on it, but it does say medical and wellness, and it's about the brain and body assessment. Okay.
Yeah, it was sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but that question was on the exam, and I actually ended up, they brought it up during the agent seminar.
Yep.
Yeah, they brought it up. They went over that, but for some reason, I don't know why, I didn't even bother looking at that brochure.
Right.
When I was, the few days before, and then on top of that, I didn't bring the brochure with me to the testing center, because I just didn't take that that brochure seriously. I'm focusing on everything else. And
I
so
know.
of course it pops
I
up
don't
on
think I
the
would
it popped
Yep.
up on the exam, and I was like, "Oh my God." And then I had to pull the guessing game on this one, and I was like, and I think I ended up answering, I said 2 years, and the answer was wrong. It was 5 years. And of course, when I got home, I looked at my notes and I was like, "Oh man." It was like it was 5 years. I got that wrong.
Right. Yeah. And again, yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead, Johnny. But yeah, for sure, the
Okay,
main thing about
thank you.
the trust, Tony, is Article 12, Section 5. You got to know that it's at least 2 credited season. Okay. And this is, again, this is for former players. And a former player, again, your clients can also be, guys that have only played for 1 or 2 years. And they may not have been picked back up because, again, you can be released. Even though you get a contract for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you can be released if per that clause in the NFL player's contract that you are not the best player. If you're not the best player, then they'll release you. I mean, it is what it is. But again, if you got guys that you meet that they said, hey, we've played, that could lead into something else, because what would or could happen is if you become familiar with that guy or connected with that guy, he may have referrals to some of his alumni or classmates that are at a specific school you may be recruiting from. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
How can that be, deemed then? Kind of like that article that you had us read. How can they be deemed not the best player? Can you rectify that in a contract? It's kind of like the lease, you know what I mean? You can like cross that out, or
No, that's not how the league works. I can't call them bullies because I like to get paid, but the league will, when they do the player contract, so for 2030, right? So if you happen to have a client that you want to bring this up to in 2026, yeah, so you'll have 2025 that you'll have clients. So if you want to bring this up in 2026 or 27 to the player rep to negotiate that for 2030, as in your question, man, well, why is it this way? Like, how can these guys get released? I mean, you're most likely going to lose, especially because in America and the United States, we have at-will states that you can be fired at will, right? There are certain, I don't know, it's not all 50 states, but there are certain states that have termination policies that you can fire anybody. So if your boss, literally that phrase, they wake up on the wrong side of the bed and they're like, you know what? I'm really not feeling Tony today. I ain't even been to work, but for the last 3 weeks, he's been coming in way too early, and then I have to get there, and then he's in there waiting. I have to look at his eyes. You know what? I'm just gonna fire him. I'm done with it. They could fire you because it's an at-will state. Same thing with the NFL policies. They may do the same thing.
and is that where you then would file like a grievance? Because, for example, if they did well on the performance escalator, like, you're like, hey,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, filing a grievance is your next best case scenario, because then you get an arbitrator, and then that person, again, that's all paid for by the league. But for the most part, as an agent, if it's something specific from the agent standpoint, you'll let NFLPA agent services know, right? And then agent services will be able to ones that will try to rectify that before you get to that grievance part. So if you think you have a grievance, you want to get the details down first, let them know, and then they'll be the ones, they'll say, okay, this is what we can do. If you want to pursue this further, this is the course that we'll take. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
So next thing is the health reimbursement plan, also called the GEAT. Again, this is another question that is on the exam as well. The GEAT Upshot NFL Player Health Reimbursement Account. That there's a question on there. Really, it's about credited seasons. So like we mentioned earlier about when do you want to make notes on the benefits and when they start, using different columns. Say this column is for number of seasons. This is the benefit. This is one of those things that's 3+ credited seasons for the health reimbursement plan benefit. Okay. This is eligible. The reimbursement eligible expenses are your premiums and COBRA. Again, COBRA, as you know, is after someone's been fired, after someone's not there. If they run out of insurance, which I think we covered that as well today. If they run out of insurance, they will have an option to pay into COBRA, which is extended insurance. Incurred after vested players, 5 years. Continuing the veterans coverage, the maximum for 2020 was 350 for 450,000 from 2020 to 2030. Okay, so if you see the question on there, it's the length and duration of this current CBA, which is 450, which again you'll see in Article 42. Okay. And that last thing, obviously, we talked about that trust earlier. Again, it's a booklet. I'm not sure why they haven't sent that out yet, but again, I'll add that to the materials for week 2 so that you can take a look at that. And again, you want to familiarize yourself with it so that you can add it to your binder, so that if you do get questions, just like Johnny said earlier, he forgot to bring it. And again, that one question could be that one over the hump that gets you past that 70 scaled score threshold. You see what I'm saying? So it may seem like one that's not enough, and just kind of what Johnny was saying, he didn't really think anything of it, but shoot, that one little question, that really could be the determining factor. Now, remember, out of 60 questions, you want to shoot for at least 55. So when you use that little tally ticker, hopefully you get the 50 questions that and 5 more from there. Like, okay, and I knew these extra 5. This one I just didn't get. And if you miss 5, you definitely should be good. I don't say will, but you should be good. Here's what the trust looks like in detail. Okay, there's 3 pillars, and what Johnny was talking about earlier is part of that health and wellness. And one of the main things that we went over in the seminar was through the community and connection opportunities, the health and wellness opportunities, and personal and business development. Those are the 3 things within the trust, okay? But the brain and body assessments is what Johnny was talking about earlier. It's once every 5 years from the first date in which the assessment was administered. So just like I mentioned earlier about the neurocognitive development and getting your clients scheduled for that right away, you definitely want to keep that as part of your records, because when the first date of that assessment is, then you're going to get 5 years of benefits from there. Okay. Critical care is also a part of that health and wellness. And then these are and again, this is all part of the trust. Okay. And the trust is that program within the NFLPA. Again, the players have already paid their dues and paid into it. That they'll be able to take part of. But some of the other programs that are also, the free agent program is not a part, but I believe that Breakfast Club is. So there's a scholarship award. There's the trust app that the players can download as well, besides the benefits app. And then the Breakfast Club, the trust courses, and then of course the free agent program. Okay, so that's some of the detailed stuff about the trust. And then when I put that in there for you to check out, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it just says unlock your benefits, and it's a game plan to what's next after players have been playing and whatnot. Okay. Yeah. Okay, 3. Yep. Good. Okay, so I'm going to get to a couple of these questions here. Access to personal records. This is really part of week 3 as well. But just so you know, you have 7 days to permit a player for inspection to their medical records. Remember, the medical record go through the Medical Information Bureau, but for the exam, you'll just need to know that the player will have 7 days to be able to inspect his records. And once the exam, they can examine once in the preseason and once after the regular season, which means in the postseason. So during the regular season, they won't be able to, but in the preseason, because that's when most guys do get hurt. And then, of course, in the postseason, which is basically after the regular season. Player or former player can get a copy at no charge. Personal physician can inspect in consultation with the team. You definitely need to let the team know. That is definitely something that comes up on the test. The verbiage that they use will be similar to that. Is who can view or inspect this player's information, and their personal physician. It'll say personal physician. Their the pediatric physician, their family physician, or their gynecologist. They literally will put in their gynecologist. You're like, wait, what? Why would they put? It's one of those answers that they're literally just putting in there just to put in there. It makes no sense. And then upon request, the player or physician records must be provided as soon as possible, but no later than 7 days. Okay. So again, two of the key dates for accessing player medical records is the player has 7 days to be able to inspect it. And once they make a request to the team got to let them know within 7 days. Okay. Workers' compensation, this is Article 41. Oh, yeah. Really familiarize yourself. If you haven't seen it already, again, this is part of, I think, week 3 as well. Article 45, Section 11. Definitely familiarize yourself with that. Kind of what Johnny was saying earlier about the body and assessment, and it's a pretty thick packet for the trust, but you want to recall that information and recall where you're going to look up workers' compensation stuff from. Again, on that article sheet that I submitted in there, you'll be able to see that on there as well, and it looks like yeah, there is Article 41. Right, so it's Article 41 is where you will look for that workers' compensation. Okay, this is second medical opinions. Every player has a right to second medical opinion. This is Article 39. Again, I think this is also part of week 3 as well. Same thing with players' right to surgeon of his choice. Okay, good. So now that's good for that. So now let me get into. Matter of fact, because Johnny hasn't taken the quiz yet. Johnny, what questions do you have that we talked about today and or pertaining from last week?
I think he left.
You there? Can you hear me? I'm sorry. I said Johnny, but I meant Tony. I didn't mean Johnny. I meant Tony. I know Johnny left.
What was that again?
I said, what kind of questions you have from today that we talked about that can help you? Because here's the thing, man. Again, I want you to be familiar with the materials, but I definitely need you guys to pass the exam. I definitely want to get more of you guys to pass these quizzes because I know the quizzes may seem hard, but the questions on the quizzes that I'm giving you, except for the names, are literally ones, some of them are word for word in your exam. You understand? So if you answer these questions on here, the ones that are done incorrectly, well, then it's better for you to answer it now incorrectly so you can dive into it into the CBA, which is again a part of, again, like I said last week, there's these next 10 to 12 weeks. I know it's a lot, but you're definitely going to have to make some serious sacrifices and time with family and friends. Hopefully not your work time, but the readings are definitely going to help you with these quizzes, your written assignment, and of course your recall later on, because even though we're on week 2, you see some of the stuff has to do with week 1. Same thing when we move forward to week 3, it's going to be an accumulation of things. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, so week 1 I saw we have CBA part 1, and then week 2 CBA part 2. What I guess then that's kind of like our base to start going off of, and then we use that base for the quizzes, and it kind of repeats itself after week 3, week 4.
Yeah, for sure. Like so, week 3. Well, so with the CBA right now, again, we're just gonna have 3 weeks of the CBA. right? And then, and I think I think it's week 4 or week 5 that we have a draft simulation, and at that time we'll talk about what the instructions are for that, how to do that, and again the point of it is so that you can get into agent mode and you can use your knowledge that you've gathered for the last 3 weeks and put that into what's going to happen for that simulation, right? Because right now, week 3 is going to be about medical rights, grievance procedures, and the player contract, which is what we're going to go over next week. So when you're going through your readings this week, it's going to be a lot more in depth. Like we've only been doing a little bit right now, but week 3 is going to be a little bit more in depth of what's the CBA Part 3, because those 39 questions that you're going to have. Again, I've given you probably about like it's 15 or 20 of them. But those are the questions that you're going to get on the exam. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I kind of did it backwards. I read and went through like my source notes, like the governing advisor of the agency. That's why I was asking the questions about the 7. And now I'm getting caught up on the CBA. So I feel like once I finish quiz 1, quiz 2, and then CBA part 1, part 2, I'll have a little bit more of a base and substance. Because I know a lot, I just don't know enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would be great if everything was all calculations. And like I said, I'll tell you again, as far as the highlight, it was not half, right? So the exam is not half calculations. It may be it definitely is a good quarter of calculations, right? So from the source documents and from the test specifications, right? If you look at where and when those actual calculations and formulas come into play of the 39 questions, that means it's going to be probably about 10 to 15 questions that are going to be your formula calculated questions. When you get to the salary information, that stuff is really just looking at the draftee signals, right? So that's going to be what's going to look at the draftee signals, which I'm assuming you guys haven't gotten there yet because we haven't finished with all those negotiations. There's some guys, for whatever reason, they're still holding out. They can do what they want to do, but so when those draftee signals get done, then you're going to get sent that, right? And then that's going to be able to. So did you take the exam last year?
No, I've taken the practice stuff. I've done SMW, and this is way different. It's a lot more thorough. I mean, nothing bad rap against Mr. Corey and all that. It's just it was more like questions. I'm kind of like, wow, lots of going on.
Right. And that's what, several people, and I got about a half dozen people that I'm tutoring as well independently, and that was a thing about the differences, right? So me, again, I used to be, college, a high school teacher, used to be a college professor at 2 different colleges, at Temple and at Rockford College in Illinois, and learning through the collegiate way how you did things was a little bit easier, was way easier for me, right? And then talking to different people, they were like, yeah, and then going through all those questions, it was just rambling. It just seemed like we just went over questions and we didn't understand the philosophies behind the questions or in front, before those questions, which is what we're trying to do now is make sure you get
assumed. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and again, I got your, and you saw my notes on your essay.
I did. I appreciate it.
Okay, good. Yeah, and again, it was a great job, man. I appreciate you taking the time. And again, the whole purpose of the essays is so that you ingrain yourself as an agent to prepare for the agent's exam, and so that you can recall a lot of information. Because fact pattern wise, when you start taking the exam, you start reading the questions on the exam, you're going to have a whole bunch of fact patterns. And as the sentences go, as the verbs go, the words go inside of that whole fact pattern, you're going to recall a lot of different things. And that's why the purpose, the emphasis on the essays is good for you. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unless you have any other questions, I'm gonna end it for today. But because I want you to do the questions first before I go over all the questions. Because I want you to try to dive into it and have a full-fledged understanding of what you're asking and what you're answering.
Absolutely. And then I just have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, good.
What would you say, like, I guess the most thing that people, I would say, struggle at with this, and what people, obviously advance in, like you see most people pick up very fast?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, and what's ironic about that question is what happened today with what Johnny brought up, right? So, you remember Johnny said, "Oh, hey Prince, I got a question about the trust and about the body and assessments." And what I did was I didn't even bring my actual binder stuff. He said I didn't even bring it. That is, again, like I talked about in week one, if you do or don't, you should get tabs for your notebooks. Okay, definitely get tabs for your notebooks. You're going to need tabs across the top, tabs on the side, so it's easy if you need to recall something. Okay, because what was something that you may miss on the exam is something that you may have remembered studying, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, injury settlement. Okay, let me flip to, oh, here it is right here. Oh, and then you read the question. What's that?
It's only one page in the source note.
Yeah. So, and again, it's one page in the source notes, but again, it's in your CBA though. So you need to read through your CBA as far as what that would mean. So let me see. Just a quick question here. So injury protection is Article 12. Injury grievance is Article 44. I'm sorry, injury protection is Article 44, which is on page 268, 270. Injury grievance is on Article 44. So between the grievance and protection, the injury settlement is coming from the terminology and the philosophy stuff that are in those two articles. And then amongst those articles, when you look at it, let me see here. What's this? So again, if I got a question on injury protection, right, or injury grievance. So if I have 3 minutes. Now I just flipped automatically right to Article 43. And if I go to 44, which is on 262, I can see, and so mine I've highlighted in Article 44. And the things that are critical of knowledge in here is about payment. And it's got to be within 30 days, which is on 267. So the question on the exam may be when will payment be received to the player? And you'll be able to answer, okay, it's 30 days. Because again, some things are 20 days, which is when you have to appeal. Some things are 15 days when you need to get a response from the commissioner's office. So what people forget a lot is organizing their notes and recalling them, just like I just did for me just this now. But just like what Johnny was saying, even though he recalled it, then he couldn't even flip to it because he didn't even bring it. You see what I'm saying? So by not bringing his notes, and he just couldn't answer that question. And again, you don't want to do that for more than 5 questions.
Got it. And then
the easiest thing. The easiest thing, and I don't want. And see, somebody told me today, some guys I talked to that were in my class last year, and I was like, man, I'm working with these guys. I'm looking at their quizzes, and they're getting less than 50%. What do you think? I said, well, man, you know that it's easier when you are knowing this stuff. Okay, and it's great that you brought that up, Tony. It's easier when you know this stuff, so that you can recall the formulas between, and the 30% is not on there. The 25% max rule, that is on there. You'll definitely get to that in a lot of your questions. But that's the one that some people have said that they were so glad that they remembered that part, that 25% rule. Okay, the 30% rule, that's not in there. Don't even worry about it. It is obviously in your reading and stuff, but it definitely was not on this last 4 or 5 years of exams. But the 25% rule is on there. So knowing the rookie pool, the year one performance, all that stuff, those are things you definitely need to dive into as far as formula and calculation wise.
You got it. Yeah, I have no problem with failing. I just want to understand why I fail, so I don't do it again.
Mm-hmm. So did you get a listing of what things you failed? Like, was it Players Inc. stuff? Was it CBA stuff?
No, I just got to do more of the like severances, termination pays, grievances, because I didn't look into that too much because I thought I could recall it because I knew where it was.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
the questions got a little bit too verbiage, and I was kind of like, I'll come back to them. And I
Yeah,
was kind of like, and I got back to him like, still don't know it, So
right.
like hearing it from somebody else, understanding, the actual intention or application of how it's being applied, not only to the player, but understanding why it's being applied makes it more applicable.
Absolutely. And just keep in mind, again, when you get to that point, and even on these quizzes too, two answers don't make any sense. They're not the right answers. Okay. So two of those answers are absolutely out. Okay. The other two or three is it's gonna come down to you remembering the right way to go through the fact pattern and how to calculate those weeks. And again, specifically the credited seasons versus accrued seasons. Okay. Remember, just anything that has to do with benefits and salary has to do with credited. And anything that has to do with accrued is how many games they've played on the active, inactive list, especially if a guy has been, if he's on IR and if he's been designated for return. Okay, for the designated return, whatever that week is, he's going to be designated, but he's got to be out at least 4 weeks. So that's preferably if he gets injured, between week 3 and week 4, and then he's on IR for weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8, then he can come back in week 9 for the rest of the season. Okay, so that will determine how many weeks of pay that he's getting, especially again on 171, the up amount and the down amount, and it may talk about his full split, which again is that up and down amount, or if they may say it's tied to credited seasons. Okay, so again.
That'd be the draft signal specifically, right?
Yeah, in draft signals for sure, definitely. But if you get a question on there yeah. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess then in regards to what was I gonna say? For like the phases, right? For 1, 2, and 3 for the off seasons, we don't really per se need to know the days as long as we know that the perfect play, that type of stuff, with the dates and like when they can have full contact or when they can have coaches versus just strength coaches, when they can have the hours versus the non-hours.
Right. That's that acclimation period, right? So you need to. So you may get a question about what are they going to be doing during that acclimation period. And again, that just has to do with that. But the most part of the preseason will have to do with the practice squad afterwards, right? So the practice squad, just so I'm not sure if you saw this, but the practice squad is established the first day after the final preseason roster cut down. Okay, it's got to be before 12 p.m. Okay, so again, the times of different things that come up. Again, just make note of those type of things. And again, that's part of your practice squad reading. And remember, how many players can each team have on the practice squad?
I'm conflicted on that one. Is it 16 or 17?
It's 16.
Didn't they have a +1 or no?
No, it's the maximum is 16. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just no plus one after that. The maximum they can have is 16. In the off season, do you remember how many players maximum in the off season?
For the practice squad?
No. How many players in the off season? How many people on the roster for the off season? It's a roster question.
Yeah, because you have the 53, you have the 8 linemen. It's going to be. It's not 94, is it?
No, it is not. See how that took you about 20 seconds?
Yeah, I'm in college mode.
You're going to definitely need to know the off-season roster maximum is 90. 90.
90, 90, 90,
Okay?
90.
So keep that in your mind. So practice squad, regular season, 16 players.
90 cut down to
90 is the off-season only. And that's all the way up through until August 30th. And then on August 30th, the rosters are to be cut down to 53 by what time?
I got to recall. I got to look.
Remember, I just told you. Remember these times. Not 4 p.m. It's going to be a Western. The Westerns, they do the gun shootouts. What time they do the gun shootouts? I think I don't drink alcohol, but I'm pretty sure there's a seltzer, some kind of seltzer, some seltzer alcohol. It's called too. I threw you off. You must not drink that much too.
Nope.
High noon.
I knew. Okay.
I think that's the alcohol, what it's called. The little seltzer beer. It's like a fluorescent blue or I don't know, some kind of blue can. But high noon, so 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anything that the NFLPA gives you is at Eastern Standard Time.
Got it.
Okay.
And I guess one more, and I'll let you go. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
I guess for like the faculty or teaching or coaching or speed coaching or when you're involved. 'Cause I know if you're an agent, you can't be hired per club, right? Because you're representing for the union. But how do you, I guess, recruit then? Do you represent and say like, hey, when you walk in, you're like, I am agent so and so ID because you already had those accolades before you became an agent? Like, for example, if you're a coach and you become an agent, are you doing a disservice not telling these kids that you're an agent and you have potential to, advance their careers? Does that make sense?
So what you're talking about is recruiting.
I'm in a locker room a lot, helping kids like doing strength and doing like their therapy. And obviously I'm not licensed yet, but once I become licensed, do I have to identify that? Because I know a lot of the health professionals or a lot of the gym owners say no agents allowed, but I'm like, I'm not an agent. I'm a second generation agent.
No, yeah. So technically, you're not an agent at all. You dig what I'm saying? So I wouldn't even put that a part of that. So I used to own an 85,000 square foot sports training facility, and at the time, I was CSCS. Yeah, I was CSCS with the National Strength and Conditioning Association. I was also at the time, I was also CFL certified. I was a contract advisor with the Canadian Football League. Everything is all separate. Like even right now, as a actual NFL agent, I'm also an NIL agent, and I do not cross stream any of the conversations about anything. Like we don't talk about contracts. We don't talk about tuition reimbursement plan. We don't talk about where you can get drafted. We do only NIL stuff. Now, why that is, it would be illegal, unethical, based on our rules governing contract advisors, because in the contract advisor's book, and you'll see it in there as well, it's not in this one because it's got to be renewed, but because this new NIL didn't start till July 1st of 2021. But the NFLPA specifically says that no contract advisor can talk to a prospective NFL player and entice him with being his NIL representative. Now, how easy and difficult that is, it's easy because again, once you become an NFL agent, you'll get all this information. But once you become an agent, they have questionnaires. So say you sign a player, say you sign, Johnny Walker, and this was a top player in your state, okay? And you said, "Oh, hey man, I'll represent you as your NIL agent if you let me represent you as your NFLPA agent to help you with your contracts and stuff." And he says, "All right, yeah, sure, man, it's fine with me." And then when you submit your SRA, which is your standard representation agreement, it goes into the portal, and then the agent services, they do their due diligence, they follow up, they call the players, they may say, "Hey, did Tony entice you with anything? Did he promise to pay for your training? Did he promise to buy you a vehicle? Was he your NIL agent? Did he represent you for any name, image, likeness deals while you were in college?" And again, that stuff is easy to find out because it's all done through compliance. And then if they find out yes, well then you're definitely going to lose your license immediately. They already said that.
So if I'm coaching kids now that are going, undrafted or whatnot, they're having the opportunity to, do these mini camps. If I pick up more kids and the kids are talking, they go, "Yeah, Tony could represent you," right? And we're doing a training session. I go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's, change hats, talk about this later. Let's finish the session." Does that make sense?
Yeah, listen, it would behoove you to not even let them know that you're taking the test. I don't know. This is your first time taking it, for one.
Yeah,
But
I'm saying, like I said, like what you're saying is I want to do it right, because obviously once one kid finds out, they start talking, and I see that in the compliance that if they ask us, we can answer, but they have to initiate.
yeah, I would listen. Kids are stupid, and and grown adult men are stupid too. They will say the wrong thing because they don't understand the question. So I would avoid that by not letting them think anything about you representing until October, when you get that notification. You'll get the notification in September, usually the second week in September. But I wouldn't bring that up at all, like not taking a test, not, "Hey, I'm going to be an agent one day," none of that. Because if they say, "Oh yeah, Tony told me he was going to be an agent back in March, so I just figured he could represent me, and I got a couple other guys," because then you see what I'm saying? They could say anything. You don't want that to happen.
Right.
The best thing for you is to definitely keep contact information. The people you need to be really heavy in contact with, which we're not going to do that today. We'll do that prospecting. You definitely want to connect with the coaches, the assistant coaches, and head coaches of wherever you're prospecting, whether it be FBS or FCS schools or HBCUs. Those are people you need to be connecting with, like, right now. And the reason why you're connecting with them, hey, which is better for you, again, not being deceitful, but hey, I got a couple of kids that I train. I was wondering, hey, if you mind taking a look at them? Oh yeah, sure. That's how you build a rapport with some of those coaches. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, because it's such a gray area, and I don't want it to be black or white. I want to stay, out of sight, out of mind. But at the same sense, I want to, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things I want to be able to recruit players. So, like, for example, 100%, I know if I go out of state, I got to be licensed in that state or whatnot. But if I go out of state and I'm, at the game, and someone comes up to me, it's like, how do you recruit like that when you go to a game, or, if you go watch a player, you're like, "Hey, my name's so-and-so, I just wanted to meet you. It's nice to meet you." That's it.
Yeah, no, you definitely can go to a game. I mean, yeah, that's football. I mean, you want to watch a game, you can watch a game. Even if you talk to parents, it's nothing about doing you talk with parents. I mean, especially if you're saying you train guys, so you train and coach guys from before. Your conversation, you got to just keep your huh.
But is that enticement if I'm like, "Hey man, come train with me for the NFL Combine or your pro day,"
How much does it cost to train with you? How much is your sessions?
Right now, I just do the 100. I don't do the 20 grand. I don't do medical. I don't do the housing. I just do a
Right.
normal bucks for the session.
$100 per session, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you do $100 per session and you do 24 sessions, that's $2,400, right? So if you say to a guy, hey, if you train with me, I won't charge you if you let me represent you for the NFL draft in 2025. You see what I'm saying? That's an enticement. But if you go up to a player, you're watching them play football. Again, I'm glad you asked this now, especially I know what to tell guys. I was gonna do this anyway later on in week 9, I think week 9 or so. But the best thing for you to be able to do is you probably should look up relationship marketing, relationship building, and networking and stuff, because really all you should be doing now is networking with folks, just meeting people and getting to know them. Because typically how we get clients and how we eventually gain their trust is really through consistent communication. So if you meet a guy, even at a high school game or even a college game, if you meet a guy, you're just introducing yourself. Hey, how you doing, man? He said, well, what's your name? What do you do? And you say, this is what I do. You can't say I'm an agent or I'm going to be an agent. What do you do? Well, I train athletes. So this is what I do. But if they ask you what you do, you see what I'm saying? But you don't want to entice a guy by saying kind of quid pro quo. If you do this, I'll do this. The same thing we can't do as agents. We can't say, hey, if you let me do your NIL, then I can also do your NFL contract negotiations for the draft in 2025. We can't say stuff like that. You understand?
Right. But you know how ideal would be? Like, because I'm in South Florida. So, like, if you had a guy you were trying to recruit, say, I know between you and I can say this, but say, I'm licensed, I'm an agent now, and you're like, hey, Tony, I want you to go to this complex so-and-so because I know you know the coaches to meet this guy. Absolutely, main Prince, he wants to, meet you. My name's so-and-so. This is the guy, like, that's the guy that tutored me. Like, he knows his stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to call him. I can do that, right? Because I'm actually an agent.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. And again, we get to that point too, if you haven't already seen it, we can, again, that's a whole nother situation, but if we get to that point and whatever your comfort level is, I specifically can even be an assistant on your contracts with you too. So there's primary 1, primary 2 agent. We're both on there. We're just splitting the commissions if they get to that negotiation part and they collect money. Remember, you can't collect money until a player gets that money. And that's
right, which is why I think I have an edge, not only to help you, but others, in the sense of I already have my job. I have my career. Like, I love what I do. I just want to learn more knowledge so that I can help these young men understand what they can do.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what it'll come down to. You know what I'm saying? And that's great. That's a great great position to be in.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm, thinking the right thing, because obviously I'd be the first one to refer to you and be like, you got to talk to Mr. Prince because he's been doing this for years. I'm learning it. I'm learning a lot, but I don't want to do you a disservice, Hey, Mr. Prince, this is so-and-so,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's totally up to you as well. Okay. Good.
Awesome. We'll go to bed. I'm sorry to keep you up so late.
Hey, man, this ain't late for me, man. I got other stuff to do for my other stuff.
No rest for the wicked. The grind doesn't stop.
It definitely does not, man. So, all right. So tonight you'll definitely get when we get off here, take your quiz.
Yes,
I got your essay. Other than that, and then we'll get the reading assignment out tomorrow, and then to get the quiz on Friday for next week for week 3, and then again we'll discuss all that on next Wednesday's call. Okay.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
All right, man. Have a good one, Tony. I'll talk to you, man.
You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.